Welcome back to the radio. Tonight, you are working the night shift at the Moon's VHS archive in the year 2133. It's a quiet kind of job, surrounded by rows of dusty tapes that somehow survived centuries of digital upgrades. They are like stubborn little time capsules clinging to magnetic tape, while the rest of the universe moved on to quantum clouds and holograms. Honestly, trusting VHS to preserve history this long feels a bit like relying on carrier pigeons to deliver emails, charming but wildly impractical. What time is it on your end right now? And where are you listening from as you settle in for this story? Feel free to leave a comment below, and if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to Quilloren Radio to make this quiet corner of the night yours. Without further ado, let's begin. You step through the airlock with a soft hiss, the sound folding around you like a familiar sigh. Outside, the moon's surface stretches vast and empty, a cold, silent expanse, illuminated only by the distant sparkle of stars and the pale glow of Earth hanging fragile in the blackness of space. But inside the archive, the atmosphere holds a quiet warmth. The hum of life, tucked away in this unlikely sanctuary of analog memories stored on magnetic tape, is steady and reassuring. The sterile lighting casts a gentle glow over rows upon rows of shelves, each packed tight with VHS tapes, yellowed plastic cases, scuffed edges, and faded labels that look like relics from a forgotten past, stubbornly clinging to existence in the year 2133. Your boots make soft, muted thumps on the smooth, polished floor as you follow the narrow corridor deeper into the archive. The walls hum with subtle vibrations from the station's systems, barely perceptible but steady, a reminder that the entire complex is alive, breathing quietly beneath layers of lunar rock and dust. Around you, the faint mechanical whir of a tape rewinder spins in a slow, rhythmic cycle, its sound oddly soothing amid the stillness. Somewhere nearby, the gentle click of a tape slotting into a player echoes, punctuating the silence with a whisper of analog life. You pause at a console where a small rubber duck, its bright yellow chipped and faded, is taped to the side, a makeshift lunar mascot left behind by a long-gone technician. Its presence feels whimsically out of place, but somehow it fits perfectly here, a splash of earthly humor amid the cold efficiency of space. You imagine the conversations it might have overheard, or the quiet nights when it was the only company for the shift workers' lonely hours. The archive holds more than just tapes. It's a vessel of stories and small moments, tucked away beneath the weightless sky. The air smells faintly of plastic and aging paper sleeves, a strangely comforting aroma, like a dusty library that refuses to vanish. The shelves stretch far ahead, lined with metal racks that creak softly as they adjust to shifts in temperature and gravity. You notice the subtle play of shadows cast by flickering indicator lights, a dance of color on the worn linoleum floor. Outside the thick windows, the lunar landscape lies quiet and unchanging, the harsh silence of space pressing gently against the walls. Your steps lead you to your workstation, a small desk cluttered with a mix of futuristic touchscreens and well-worn analog equipment. The chair creaks under you as you settle in, a relic itself, its faded upholstery smooth from years of use. The slight squeak it makes when you shift reminds you that even here, some things never change. You glance down at the control panel, where buttons of varying ages blink softly, a patchwork of technology pieced together to keep this archive alive. It's an odd balance, old and new working side by side, like the tapes themselves, defying time. The slow turning of a tape spools nearby, a gentle mechanical rhythm that grounds you in the present, despite the strange setting. Outside, the distant hum of lunar rovers passing over uneven stone echoes faintly, but inside, the quiet is near complete. The only sounds are your own breathing, the shuffle of labels as you check the inventory, and the subtle clicks of tape cases sliding into place. Sometimes, you catch yourself wondering how the VHS format ever became the chosen vessel for preserving so much of humanity's history here on the moon. The idea of magnetic tape surviving centuries in the unforgiving vacuum of space feels like a cosmic joke, or maybe a bet someone lost. You imagine the engineers who decided to build this archive. Perhaps they were nostalgic, or maybe they just hadn't quite caught up with the latest tech yet. Either way, it's oddly comforting to know that somewhere beneath your fingertips, stories of the past still hum quietly in these plastic cases, stubborn and slow, waiting to be played. The archive's atmosphere is heavy, with a sense of stillness, but it's not empty. It holds a subtle pulse, like the slow, steady heartbeat of a living thing. You feel it under your skin as you move between aisles, your hands brushing against the cases, tracing the faded titles, some of them nearly illegible after decades of use. The labels carry whispers of forgotten lives. A home movie from a summer vacation, a recording of a long-lost television show, a lecture from a professor whose name you barely recognize. Each tape is a fragment of someone's story, frozen in time and space, waiting for a moment of quiet attention. Your routine here is simple but steady. You check the condition of the tapes, monitor the climate controls to keep the delicate magnetic film safe, and occasionally digitize a few selections for the newer systems, though even that feels like a strange compromise. The moon's VHS archive is a place where time slows, and history lingers in the hum of aging machines and the soft rustle of labels being handled with care. Outside, the earth drifts slowly across the sky, a beautiful blue-green marble suspended in the infinite dark. You catch a glimpse through the window and pause for a moment, letting the vastness settle around you. It's a reminder of the world left behind, the one that still breathes beneath a thin atmosphere, full of noise and life and motion. Here, in this quiet archive, you are the keeper of memories, the guardian of stories that refuse to disappear. The chair creaks again as you adjust your position, the familiar sound, a small comfort in the vast silence. You reach for a tape with a worn label that simply reads, Home Videos, 2072. The plastic is cool under your fingers, and you can almost smell the faint trace of popcorn and late summer nights as you prepare to play it. The machine whirs softly to life, the tape slowly threading through the player's mechanism, bringing the past to life in flickering images and grainy sound. This slow, deliberate pace is the rhythm of your night shift, an unhurried dance between past and present, where the old and the new coexist in quiet harmony. The moon's VHS archive may seem like a curious anachronism in the year 2133, but to you, it is a place of solace and connection, a reminder that even in the vast silence of space, stories endure. You settle into the chair, the weight of the quiet night wrapping around you like a soft blanket. Outside, the stars keep their distant vigil, but here, among the tapes and machines, time moves gently, measured in the slow spinning of reels and the soft click of plastic cases sliding into place. This is your world for the night. A still, steady sanctuary where history breathes in magnetic whispers, waiting patiently to be heard. The faint scent of warmed plastic drifts through the archive, a subtle reminder of the tapes spinning quietly in their machines nearby. It's a strangely comforting smell, faintly synthetic, yet nostalgic, as if the air itself holds whispers of countless stories tucked away inside these magnetic strips. This familiar scent nudges something deeper inside you, stirring a memory from long before you ever set foot on the moon. You find yourself transported to a humid basement on Earth, decades ago, in a small VHS rental store nestled in a sleepy suburban strip mall. The air is thick with the smell of old cardboard sleeves, and a faint trace of popcorn grease from the nearby theater. The walls groan under the weight of countless tapes, their cases a kaleidoscope of faded colors and handwritten labels. You remember the quiet ritual of flipping through those rows, fingers brushing the spines, searching for something familiar or something new to take home for the weekend. The store owner, an elderly man with a dry sense of humor, would remind you to rewind the tapes before returning them, warning that otherwise, the rewind gods might get angry. You smiled at his joke, knowing well how often those tapes fought back, getting stuck, eating the film, or refusing to rewind properly no matter how many times you tried. VHS tapes were stubborn creatures, temperamental in their own slow, magnetic way. You recall the hum of the old VCR at home, the satisfying clunk as the tape slid into place, and the fuzzy glow of the television screen filling the dim living room. The sound of the rewind button clicking in, the tape spooling backward with a gentle whir, was both a promise and a pause, a way to restart the experience or close the chapter neatly. The whole process felt tactile, almost sacred in its imperfection, unlike the seamless, instant streaming of the future. Outside the store, muffled street noises filter in, the distant honk of a car horn, footsteps crunching on gravel, the murmur of a neighborhood settling into evening. Inside, the faint smell of must and plastic blends with the warmth of old carpet and the occasional draft slipping through a cracked window. You can almost feel the weight of time in that moment, slow and measured, far removed from the rush and glare of the digital age. This memory drifts softly through your mind as you stand in the lunar archive, surrounded by relics that once carried those same stories. The contrast between the dense humidity of that basement and the dry, filtered air here is stark, but the emotional connection remains. The small rituals, the quiet frustrations, the simple pleasures of handling physical tapes, they all echo in your present, grounding you amid the endless stillness of space. You think about the people who first packed these tapes for the moon, their hopes that physical media might last longer, that stories could be preserved in ways no cloud could match. Their careful labeling, their thoughtful organization, the way they treated each tape as a fragile vessel of memory. The memory of that basement VHS store is just one thread in the vast tapestry of human stories archived here, each one quietly waiting for its turn to be remembered. The faint click of a tape player switching off pulls you gently back to the present. The air still smells faintly of plastic and paper sleeves, and the soft hum of machinery fills the space again. You stand quietly for a moment, letting the past and present mingle, leaving behind a trace of warmth in the cool archive air. There is a quiet comfort in this blending of times, a reminder that no matter how far we travel, the small, ordinary moments stay with us, woven into the fabric of who we are. The VHS tapes may spin slowly, and the machines may whir with mechanical patience, but inside them lives the echo of everyday life, preserved softly for anyone willing to listen. As you move through the rows of tapes, your fingertips brush lightly over the faded labels, each one a fragment of someone's life, a quiet moment captured in grainy image and muffled sound. You pause at one labeled simply, Summer 2065, and for a moment you let yourself imagine the laughter and warmth behind that worn case, the clinking of ice in glasses, the hum of cicadas, the smell of freshly cut grass. The memory stirs something gentle and distant, a soft ache for times when moments seemed slower, more tactile. You realize that even here, so far from Earth, those small threads of human experience remain alive. It's not just the tapes or the machines, but The connections they represent, the ordinary, quiet lives recorded and preserved against the vast, indifferent sweep of time. You let the memory settle softly, like dust on a shelf, and turn back to the present. The hum of machines, the soft flicker of screens, and the gentle rustle of tape cases all remind you that this archive, this sanctuary of analog stories, is a living space, a bridge between past and future. Here, in the quiet, the echoes of another day ripple softly through the air, carrying you gently forward into the night. Your eyes drift to a corner of the archive, where an old film projector sits untouched, its polished metal gleaming under the low light. You recall the first time you saw a film projected onto a dusty screen in a cramped room back on Earth, the flickering light painting faces and soft shadows, the gentle hum of the reel spinning, the faint scent of burnt film. Those moments felt like magic then, a connection to something larger, something shared. You wonder if anyone will ever come to this lunar archive just to watch the tapes, to feel that same quiet wonder, or if these relics will simply wait here, silent and still, until time erases them completely. It's a question without urgency, more like a passing thought, like wondering if the thermostat will ever be fixed, or if the ancient coffee machine in the break room still works. The gentle hum of the archive fills the silence again, and you let yourself sink deeper into the slow, steady rhythm of your night shift. Outside the window, Earth continues its silent orbit, a distant blue and white swirl against the endless black. Here, surrounded by tapes and memories, you find a quiet kind of peace. You settle deeper into your chair, the soft creak of its aged frame punctuating the quiet hum of the archive. The slow whir of a tape rewinder spins steadily nearby, a mechanical heartbeat in the otherwise still room. Your workstation is a curious blend of the old and the new. Sleek digital screens sit alongside analog buttons worn smooth by years of use. It's a strange harmony, much like this entire place, where time folds and stretches gently, leaving space for moments like this. From the corner of your eye, you notice the blinking light on the comm panel. You press the button, and a soft voice greets you. It's Joan, the supply coordinator stationed just a few modules away. She sounds tired, but there's a familiar warmth beneath it. "Hey, how's the archive treating you tonight?" You respond in kind, voice low and calm. "Quiet as ever. No unexpected rewinds or tape jams yet." You both share a brief laugh, light and unhurried, the kind that fills empty space without pushing for more. Joan's voice returns after a short pause. "Remember when those tapes used to eat themselves if you weren't careful? I swear, half my evenings were spent fishing magnetic film out of players." You chuckle softly. "Yeah, the rewind gods demanded their tribute. I keep a rubber band handy just in case." She laughs, and you can almost picture her shaking her head amused. "Still haven't figured out why anyone thought magnetic tape was a good long-term storage solution, but here we are." You nod to yourself, the dry humor fitting perfectly in the quiet night. Old tech with stubborn charm. Kind of like us. The conversation drifts naturally, a gentle exchange of shared history and small observations. Joan mentions a shipment of replacement cases arriving soon, the usual paperwork that somehow feels more comforting than tedious tonight. You ask her about the weather modules outside the station, how the lunar surface temperatures have been fluctuating unusually, and she fills you in with a few technical details, her voice steady and even. Between messages, the archive's soft sounds fill the space, the slow click of tape cases sliding on metal shelves, the faint hum of cooling fans, the occasional beep from the digitization stations. You notice a faint whiff of coffee drifting in from the adjacent break room, a reminder of Earth mornings in warmer places. Later, a brief chime signals a visitor arriving at the station's small reception module. It's Marcus, a fellow night shift worker from the communications deck. He stops by your workspace, holding a thermal mug with a half-empty cup of synthetic coffee. "Figured you might need a pick-me-up," he says with a tired smile. You accept the mug gratefully. "Thanks. I'll need it if these tapes don't behave." Marcus shrugs, settling onto the edge of your desk. Ever wonder if anyone will watch all this someday? Like, really sit down and go through these dusty relics? You think about it for a moment. Maybe. Or maybe they'll just be curiosities, like fossils. Silent stories, waiting for someone curious enough to listen. Marcus nods, his gaze drifting to the rows of tapes stretching beyond. It's kind of nice, though, holding on to something tangible, something slower than the endless streams and data clouds. You agree quietly, the slow pace of this place growing on you. There's comfort in that, in the smallness of it. No rush, no buzzing notifications. The conversation lulls into a companionable silence, both of you immersed in the gentle rhythms of the night shift. Marcus glances at his watch and sighs. "I'll let you get back to it. Thanks for the company." "Anytime," you reply, watching him leave with the soft clack of the airlock sealing behind him. Back alone, you stretch your fingers and turn your attention to a small pile of tapes recently flagged for digitization. The quiet interactions have settled a calmness around you, a reminder that even in this isolated place, connections quietly thread through the night. You lean back, the chair sighing in response, and let your thoughts wander along with the soft mechanical hum. The archive may be filled with silent stories, but tonight it also holds the warmth of gentle conversations, brief visits, and shared moments that carry you through until dawn. Minutes later, your comm panel buzzes again. It's a message from Ellis, the maintenance technician who often works the next module over. His voice is low, with a hint of tired humor. "Hey, just wanted to check if the temperature control in your sector is holding steady. Last week it was flirting with the high side, and you know how those tapes hate heat." You smile, tapping the controls. "All stable here, though I swear the thermostat's been broken since forever. Maybe it's part of the charm." Ellis chuckles. "Classic. We'll get it fixed someday. Or it'll become a historical artifact like the tapes." You nod to yourself, the dry humor settling in easily between you. "Maybe I should write a manual, How to Survive the Moon's VHS Archive with Broken Thermostats and Tape-Eating Machines." He laughs quietly. "I'd buy a copy." The brief chat fades, leaving behind a gentle calm that fills the room. You glance around at the softly glowing consoles, the endless rows of tapes, and the quiet hum of machinery. This place feels alive in a quiet, slow way, made up of small interactions, whispered histories, and the steady rhythm of night workers who keep it breathing. As your shift continues, you occasionally catch brief greetings from distant corridors, the low murmur of other voices drifting softly through the air. Each one is a reminder that, though you're alone in this room, you're part of a larger network, a quiet community linked by the shared task of preserving memories in this strange lunar outpost. The night stretches on, calm and steady, filled with moments like these, simple, gentle, and quietly human. The archive may be silent in many ways, but within it pulses a soft current of life, carried on the voices and laughter of those who tend it, one slow shift at a time. The low hum of the archive's climate control system fills the background as you settle into a quiet space within the lunar station. Your thoughts drift back, carried gently by the soft, mechanical rhythms surrounding you, to a time before this life, before the stillness of the moon and the endless rows of VHS tapes. It's not a dramatic turning point you recall, but a slow, worn chapter, a place where something quietly shifted. You picture a small city on Earth, one you once called home but now feels distant, softened at the edges like a photograph left in sunlight too long. The streets are familiar, the cracked sidewalks flanked by brick storefronts and modest apartment buildings, the occasional billboard peeling from too many seasons of sun and rain. The scent of roasted coffee beans mingles with the faint exhaust of old cars, the air cool but not cold, with just a trace of humidity after an afternoon rain. In your memory, you are working a job that didn't define you but paid the bills, a quiet office tucked above a coffee shop, where the clacking of keyboards filled the air alongside soft jazz playing low from a dusty speaker. The room smelled faintly of printer ink and lemon cleaner, with light filtering through Venetian blinds that cast striped shadows across your desk. You remember the feel of those keys under your fingers, a tactile rhythm as steady as the tape players now humming nearby. The work was unremarkable, yet it held small comforts. A morning greeting from the receptionist who knew your coffee order without asking. The slow climb up the stairs in the evenings, with the fading light softening the cityscape outside the window. Quiet conversations about weekend plans, shared in hushed tones near the water cooler. These moments were ordinary, but they anchored you, small acts of routine in a world that sometimes felt too fast. You recall how the building creaked and settled as the day wore on, the occasional murmur of distant footsteps in the hallway, and the faint scent of paper and dust in forgotten corners. The old office chair was stiff and squeaky, a stark contrast to the ergonomic models now standard on the station. At times, you found yourself daydreaming, your mind wandering to places you'd never been, wondering what else might be possible. There was a quiet humor in those days, too, the way the office printer seemed to jam whenever a deadline loomed, or how the communal fridge held half-forgotten lunches wrapped in foil. Sometimes you'd joke with coworkers that the building was alive, groaning and stretching like a tired old dog. They'd smile, understanding the feeling, even if the words were light. You remember a particular afternoon when a sudden summer storm sent everyone scrambling for cover. Rain pattered loudly on the windows, drowning out the usual city sounds. You watched the droplets race each other down the glass, each one tracing a path like a tiny river. The world outside seemed to slow, compressed into that small, quiet moment. There was something peaceful in the pause, a break from the constant motion. That office life, with its slow routines and gentle rhythms, feels like a different world now, soft and faded like a half-remembered dream. You realize it wasn't the place that mattered, but the quiet constancy it offered. It was a stepping stone, not the destination. A familiar harbor before setting sail into the unknown. As the memory fades, the dry humor you once carried with you surfaces briefly, a reminder that even then, life wasn't always serious. You recall being terrible at keeping plants alive on your windowsill, despite numerous attempts and enthusiastic Googling. Your coworkers teased you about your black thumb, but you laughed it off, appreciating the gentle camaraderie. Sometimes, you'd find yourself lingering by the old, hand-cranked elevator in the building's corner, half wishing it would be replaced with something modern. The slow, creaky ride-up was oddly soothing, a gentle pause in the otherwise busy day. You remember pressing your palm against the cold metal wall as the elevator groaned upward, the soft shudder of the cables vibrating beneath your fingers. There was a small sign, faded and peeling, that warned against overloading, but no one ever seemed to take it seriously. That slow, imperfect elevator was part of the rhythm, like the tape machines you now tend, both relics stubbornly refusing to let go. You also recall a friend from those days, someone who always wore mismatched socks and carried an old leather satchel stuffed with notebooks and pens. Their enthusiasm for collecting little forgotten things was contagious. Together, you'd wander the city's quieter streets on weekends, poking through thrift shops and antique stores, searching for oddities, old postcards, cracked vinyl records, or yellowed photographs. Those excursions were small adventures, rich with the promise of stories waiting to be discovered. One afternoon, your friend found an ancient cassette tape in a dusty box, labeled only with a hastily scribbled date from the early 1980s. The tape was a mystery. No artist name, no title, just a simple sticker peeling at the edges. You spent hours trying to find a player that could handle it, finally settling on a battered boombox you found at a yard sale. The moment the tape hissed to life, a tinny, scratchy voice emerged, telling stories of forgotten days and lost songs. The crackle in the audio made the memories feel more real somehow, imperfect, yet deeply human. That faded memory of chasing forgotten sounds in a world that was already moving on feels close to the work you do now. The tapes you tend on the moon carry similar echoes, soft, worn fragments of human life, preserved against a backdrop of silence and distance. The dry humor of those days lingers, too. You think about how clumsy you were with technology, messing up simple tasks, accidentally erasing recordings, or failing to label things properly. Yet, those small mistakes became part of the story, woven into the quiet fabric of the past. As the present pulls you back, the gentle click of a tape machine closing softly reminds you that while you've traveled far from that small city office and those sunlit streets, the core of those days remains alive inside you. It's a quiet distance, a slow drift through time that doesn't burden but enriches. The lunar archive surrounds you once more, the low glow of screens, the endless rows of tapes, the faint scent of plastic and paper sleeves. You realize that this slow, steady life you lead here is part of a longer story. One built on small moments, quiet routines, and the gentle persistence of memory. Here, in the stillness, you hold both past and present, linked by the soft, unassuming threads of ordinary life, weaving quietly toward whatever comes next. The worn countertop near your workstation catches the soft glow of the archive's overhead lights, its surface marked by countless faint scratches and the occasional ring from a misplaced mug. This small, unassuming patch of laminated wood has become something of an anchor for you, a quiet center in the slow, measured pace of your nights here on the moon. You often find yourself resting your hands there, letting the texture ground you amid the hum of machines and the stillness of space. Nearby, a small potted plant sits in a cracked ceramic pot, its leaves surprisingly green and resilient despite the sterile environment. You remember bringing it aboard from Earth months ago, a tiny gesture of life and color in an otherwise mechanical world. The plant doesn't demand much, just a little light, a careful misting of water, and a place to sit quietly without fuss. Its stubborn growth feels like a small, wordless rebellion against the endless monotony of your surroundings. This patch of countertop and the plant together evoke a core memory, mornings in a sunlit kitchen back on Earth, where your grandmother's old wooden table bore similar marks of daily life. You can almost smell the faint tang of citrus from the dish soap she used, and hear the distant clatter of breakfast dishes mingling with the soft hum of a radio playing a morning show. The way the light caught the edges of her worn wooden spoons, or the faint gleam on the chipped ceramic mugs, feels like a gentle touch reaching across time. That kitchen was a quiet refuge, full of small, steady rituals, brewing coffee, buttering toast, the rhythmic tapping of a spoon stirring sugar. The textures, smells, and warmth all came together to create a space that felt safe, familiar, and somehow larger than itself. You realize that the countertop here, rough and scratched though it may be, holds a similar kind of meaning. It's a place where moments gather and settle, steady and unassuming. The small plant, too, is a living thread connecting past and present. Its leaves sometimes quiver slightly when the station's ventilation system cycles, a soft movement that brings a touch of life into the stillness. You watch it carefully, noticing new shoots now and then, and you find a quiet satisfaction in its stubborn survival. It reminds you that even here, hundreds of thousands of miles from Earth, life can persist in small, fragile ways. At times, a visitor or a coworker will pause near the countertop, their presence briefly shifting the quiet atmosphere. One evening, a colleague named Lila stops by during her break, carrying a steaming cup of tea. She leans on the edge of the counter, smiling tiredly. "I swear this place grows on you, doesn't it? Like moss on an old rock." You nod, smiling softly. It does, in a strange way. This counter, that plant, they make it feel less like a sterile storage unit and more like a small home. Lila chuckles. "Yeah, I get it. I brought my lucky coffee mug last week. It's got a chip on the rim, but it's somehow comforting." You glance at the chipped ceramic pot housing your plant and feel a quiet kinship with Lila's mug. Both are imperfect objects that carry stories beyond their surface. You mention the faint scratches on the countertop, how each one seems like a tiny mark left by someone else's moment, a small echo of lives lived quietly. "Funny how little things ground you," you say. "Like this plant, stubbornly thriving in a place it wasn't meant to be." She nods thoughtfully, taking a sip from her tea. "Reminds me of that cracked porcelain doll I found as a kid. Missing an eye, but still smiling. It was a kind of charm." The conversation drifts naturally as you both appreciate the quiet rituals that make the station feel less like a way station and more like a place worth staying. Your attention shifts back to the plant, and you notice a new leaf unfurling slowly, a tiny sign of life pushing forward despite the odds. This small corner of the archive feels like an anchor not only because of the objects themselves, but because of the emotional threads they carry. Each scratch, each chipped edge, each green leaf holds a memory or a moment of connection. You realize that these quiet personal spaces within the larger, cold expanse of the station offer a kind of sanctuary, a place to breathe and feel grounded when the vastness of space threatens to overwhelm. As the night deepens, the soft glow of the station's lights casts gentle shadows across the countertop. You reach for a worn notebook lying nearby, its cover softened by months of use. Inside are your notes, observations about tapes, sketches of labels, and the occasional scribbled thought. The pages hold the slow accumulation of time, a quiet chronicle of the small world you inhabit. The plant catches your eye again, and you smile at the stubbornness of life. Despite the sterile air and artificial light, it pushes upward, reaching for something beyond its confines. It's a subtle reminder that even in the most unlikely places, growth is possible. Your fingers brush the rough surface of the countertop, feeling the familiar imperfections beneath your palm. In this moment, the archive feels less like a repository of forgotten stories and more like a living space, filled with quiet connections, subtle histories, and the soft pulse of life persisting against the odds. You know this corner, this countertop and plant, will continue to be a quiet refuge during the long nights ahead, a steady presence anchoring you as the tapes hum softly and the distant stars keep watch. If you're finding yourself settled into this quiet journey so far, consider subscribing to Quilloren Radio. It's a gentle way to stay connected, letting you drift into more stories that ease the mind and soothe the spirit. Your presence here means a lot, and there's plenty more calm waiting just ahead. You find yourself gazing out through the small, round viewport, where the vastness of space stretches endlessly beyond the glass. Distant stars twinkle faintly like scattered diamonds, cold and indifferent to the hum of the station behind you. The lunar surface below lies still, a pale landscape bathed in shadows and silence. It's during these long, quiet stretches that your mind begins to drift, slipping away from the rhythmic clicks of tape decks and the faint buzz of electronics, settling instead into a softer space filled with lingering wishes and what-ifs. What if your life had taken a different course? You imagine a place far from the sterile corridors of this archive, a warm, sunlit kitchen somewhere on Earth. The scent of fresh bread mingling with the subtle sweetness of vanilla fills the air. Your hands, dusted lightly with flour, move with slow care, whisking batter into something soft and inviting. Perhaps you once dreamed of a simpler life, one rooted in the tangible and the everyday. Baking bread, shaping dough, creating comfort with your own hands instead of managing reels of magnetic tape. You let out a soft chuckle at the thought. It seems absurd now. Your current self would be out of breath just trying to whisk pancake batter vigorously, let alone kneading dough for hours. The warmth of that imagined kitchen contrasts sharply with the cold hum of the archive. No ovens here, no smell of yeast or sugar, just the mechanical sounds of the past preserved in plastic cases. Yet, the dream lingers, a quiet question mark in the background. Could you have done it? Would it have mattered if you tried? You picture the small doors you never opened, paths you never took. Some you passed without notice, others you hesitated before, unsure if you should turn the handle. You wonder if the key was ever truly in your pocket, or if you misplaced it long ago. There's no bitterness, only gentle curiosity, a slow pondering of possibilities left unexplored. Your mind shifts to other dreams quietly tucked away. You recall your brief flirtation with the piano, fingers clumsy on ivory keys, melodies tentative and fragile. You remember the slow, methodical lessons, the way your music teacher smiled patiently when you missed notes, encouraging you to keep trying. But the hours needed, the slow progress, and the pull of daily routines pushed that aside. The piano now sits silent in a corner of a room you barely visit, a monument to a plan not fully realized. Or perhaps you considered moving to a city with greener trees and busier streets, a place humming with life and possibility. You pictured yourself wandering neon-lit avenues, the aroma of street food blending with the noise of evening crowds. But the move never happened. The familiar rhythms of your current life, however quiet and distant, held you firmly. The comfort of routine outweighed the unknown excitement of change. Another idea you once toyed with was writing, capturing fleeting thoughts and memories on paper. You imagined filling notebooks with stories, weaving quiet observations into gentle narratives. You recall the nervousness of sharing early drafts, the vulnerability of exposing your inner world. Those notebooks now rest in storage, their pages marked by hesitant lines and crossed-out phrases. The urge to write has never quite disappeared, but the timing never seemed right. In these long, still hours, you let yourself imagine trying again, opening those dusty notebooks and giving words the space to breathe. You see yourself sitting at a small desk, pen moving steadily across paper, the soft scratch, a quiet companion to the silence. It feels oddly comforting, like reconnecting with a part of yourself left dormant. You sit back, the faint mechanical hum grounding you as these thoughts drift. There is no regret, no pressure, just a calm curiosity about the roads not taken, the quiet doors left unopened. A gentle question that lingers softly. Did I wait too long? Or perhaps, could I still do it now? The silence offers no answers, only a pause that floats between the steady pulse of the tape machines and the recycled breath of station air. You find a quiet peace in this ambiguity, a space where possibility and acceptance coexist without tension. A small smile touches your lips at the subtle humor of it all. Life's grand ambitions often dissolve into simple moments, whisking batter on a lunar night, holding a plant stubbornly growing in a cracked pot. The humor is dry, understated, a quiet reminder that some what-ifs are gentle companions rather than burdens. You think back to a conversation with an old friend who once said, "Life isn't about leaps, but the slow steps taken without notice." Maybe this slow path, surrounded by tapes and silence, far from imagined kitchens and bustling streets, is where you were meant to be all along. As you turn from the viewport, the familiar scene of the archive reclaims your attention. The soft glow of screens, the orderly stacks of tapes, and the steady presence of your little plant blend into a tableau of calm endurance. Those lingering wishes remain, not as weights, but as faint threads woven quietly through the fabric of your nights. You realize these silent what-ifs, these untried doors, have shaped you in their own way. They remind you life is never linear, but a series of quiet choices, some taken, others gently set aside. And sometimes, that's exactly right. Returning to your work, the deliberate rhythm of sorting tapes grounds you again. The questions don't disappear. They don't need to. They settle beside you, soft and unobtrusive, as you continue through the night, cradled by stories waiting patiently in their plastic cases. The night deepens. Your hands move steadily, the quiet intimacy of the work a balm. Somewhere between memory and possibility, you find a quiet grace, not in having all the answers, but in holding the questions softly, letting them linger like the distant stars outside, always there, always waiting. You carefully lift the lid of a worn, rectangular box, tucked away on a low shelf in the archive. Its edges are scuffed, and the faded label reads simply, "Time Capsule." The box has been here longer than you have, a collection of assorted objects gathered over years, perhaps decades. You run your fingers along its surface, feeling the slight roughness of aged cardboard beneath your touch. The quiet anticipation of discovery settles in, soft and unhurried. Inside, you find an assortment of items, each one a small story, a fragment of life frozen in time. The first is a faded photograph, edges curling slightly. It shows a group of people standing on a sunlit porch, their smiles faint but genuine. You don't know who they are, but the image feels warm and familiar, like a half-remembered dream. The photo's paper has a subtle texture, and you imagine the snap of the shutter, the laughter just before the picture was taken. Next, a small key wrapped in a frayed ribbon. It's too old to fit any modern lock you recognize, and its purpose remains a mystery. You wonder what door it once opened, or if it was meant to unlock something more symbolic, a secret, a memory, a promise. The ribbon's faded color hints at years of careful storage, as if someone held onto this key long after the lock had disappeared. Nestled beside it is a crumpled ticket stub, printed in block letters. Springfield Fair, 1978. The paper is brittle, edges torn. You imagine the sounds of that fair, the distant call of carnival barkers, the faint scent of popcorn and cotton candy, the thrill of winning a prize at a game booth. The ticket feels like a whisper from a day filled with simple joys, long since past. There's also a tiny ceramic figurine, chipped but still charming, a small cat with one ear broken off. It seems to have been handmade, perhaps a keepsake or a souvenir. You smile quietly at the thought that someone treasured this imperfect little object enough to include it here. Its glaze is dull, yet in its imperfection, it holds a quiet beauty. A folded letter lies beneath these items, its ink faded but legible. You unfold it carefully, revealing looping handwriting that speaks softly of everyday matters. A note of thanks, a brief update, a wish for health and happiness. The letter carries a gentle intimacy, as if the writer spoke directly to someone they cared for deeply. There's no drama, no urgency, just the quiet presence of connection across time. Your fingers brush over a smooth, polished stone next, cool and rounded by years of water or wear. Its surface is mottled with subtle colors, like a tiny piece of earth preserved here in this box. You hold it for a moment, feeling its weight and texture, sensing the slow passage of time that shaped it. Each item evokes soft stories and memories, though none are fully explained. The box feels less like a container and more like a quiet mosaic of lives lived and moments cherished. You notice a handwritten label inside the lid, barely readable. For the future from the past. It feels fitting, this collection of fragments waiting patiently for discovery. A small, folded piece of paper catches your eye. It's a note with a humorous typo. "Don't forget to buy milk." You smile at the lightness of it. A tiny human slip preserved through the years. A reminder that even in careful archives, imperfection finds its place. You linger over a pressed flower, its petals faded to a delicate brown. It seems fragile, yet it has held its shape across decades. You imagine the day it was picked, the sun warm, the air fragrant, a quiet moment someone wanted to hold on to. This small bloom feels like a secret offering from the past, delicate and enduring. There's a scratched vinyl record sleeve, empty now except for a handwritten track list on the back. The songs are from decades ago, old favorites you've heard fragments of in other tapes here. You picture someone carefully choosing songs, perhaps to share a mood or capture a feeling. The empty sleeve feels like an unfinished invitation, a space waiting to be filled again. A folded map slips from beneath the letter, its paper creased and worn. The map shows a small town with handwritten notes marking familiar spots. A cafe, a park bench, a bookstore. You imagine the footsteps traced along these paths, the quiet afternoons spent wandering streets that felt like home. The map feels like a tether to a place once lived, a life once known. You find a keychain, shaped like a vintage camera, its metal cool and slightly tarnished. It sparks a memory of old photographs, moments captured and frozen, a laugh, a glance, the way light played across a face. The camera keychain feels like a symbol of remembrance, a promise to hold on to what might otherwise fade. As you explore, you find a worn paperback book with a dog-eared page. The spine is cracked, pages soft from many readings. The book's title hints at distant travels and quiet adventures, stories that offered an escape or comfort. You open the marked page and read a sentence that feels oddly familiar, as if speaking directly to your current moment. Sometimes, the smallest journeys carry the deepest meaning. The collection feels alive in its quiet way. Each object is a thread in a larger tapestry of ordinary lives, connected across time by memory, hope, and the simple act of keeping. The time capsule invites you to imagine the hands that placed each piece inside, their stories, their quiet moments, their laughter and tenderness. Carefully, you close the lid, the box now resting once more on its shelf. The archive's quiet hum resumes around you, but the presence of the time capsule lingers, a soft, textured reminder of all the small, precious things that make up a life. You stand, taking a deep breath, grounded by the delicate stories hidden in that worn box. The night stretches on, full of quiet possibilities and the soft weight of memory. The gentle weight of these past moments settles in your chest, a balm against the vast emptiness outside the viewport. In this place filled with recorded history and silent tapes, the time capsule feels like a secret shared between the past and the present, a soft murmur of humanity's quiet persistence amid the cold reaches of space. It reminds you that no matter how far you travel, the small, tender pieces of life remain, patiently waiting to be found again. You settle deeper into your chair, the familiar hum of the archive machines, a steady background to your thoughts. Outside the viewport, the lunar surface lies in shadow, stretching endlessly beneath the black sky studded with distant stars. The vastness invites your mind to drift, not just across the night, but into the far reaches of time, decades, maybe even centuries ahead. You find yourself wondering about the future of this place, this lunar archive, and your small role within it. What will become of the moon's VHS archive in the years to come? Will it still exist as you know it, or will time and progress render it obsolete? You imagine a future worker, decades or centuries from now, sitting here in your place. Perhaps they'll gaze out the same viewport, looking at Earth, wondering about the people who once lived there and about the stories stored in these tapes. Will they appreciate the care with which you tend these reels? Or will it all seem quaint, an anachronism from a less advanced age? Technology will surely evolve. Maybe by then, the magnetic tapes will have been digitized and stored in formats you can't yet imagine. Or perhaps, by that time, these tapes and machines will be silent relics, artifacts in a museum of technological history. You picture future archivists dusting off machines like the ones you use, marveling at the clunky mechanics and magnetic strips, their eyes wide with curiosity or amusement. You wonder if their chairs will finally stop squeaking like yours do, or if the station's thermostat will have been fixed, something you've long found amusing about your work environment. Will their uniforms be more comfortable? Will the coffee machines finally deliver a decent brew? These small practicalities humanize the distant future in your mind. The idea of storytelling might have changed drastically. Maybe people no longer listen to sleep stories or calming narrations. Perhaps stories will be immersive, full sensory experiences crafted through virtual reality or neural interfaces, blurring the line between dream and reality. The idea of a gentle voice telling a story over rain sounds might then seem charmingly old-fashioned, a quaint ritual preserved for nostalgia or study. Still, some things you hope will remain unchanged. The human need for calm and connection, for quiet moments to unwind and find peace, seems universal and timeless. Whether told through a tape deck or a holographic projector, the impulse to share gentle stories will likely persist. You let your mind wander to the lighting in the archive. Will future lighting systems adjust automatically to your mood or the lunar day, casting a soft, natural glow that soothes the eyes and eases the mind? Will the constant low hum of machinery be replaced by quieter, more efficient technology? Or will some small noises remain, grounding workers in the rhythm of their tasks? You imagine the future occupants of this archive, workers, historians, explorers, or perhaps even tourists. Will they understand the importance of preserving these tapes? Or will they be more fascinated by the machines themselves, relics of a bygone era. You like to think they'll appreciate the quiet humanity woven into the stories on these tapes, the voices, the laughter, the everyday moments that never made headlines but meant everything to those who lived them. Your gaze shifts to Earth, suspended like a glowing blue jewel against the darkness. It reminds you of the countless lives connected to this archive, lives on the other side of the void. You wonder if anyone down there ever thinks of this remote archive, or if it's just a forgotten whisper among billions of other things demanding attention. This quiet stretching of time, where past, present, and future blend, brings a strange comfort. You realize your role as an archivist is part of a long continuum, a chain of custodians passing down stories and memories. Your care for these tapes is more than maintenance. It's a quiet act of preservation for a future you may never see. You think practically for a moment, imagining the future workers' daily routines. Will they have better coffee machines? Softer uniforms? Chairs without creaky legs? These small thoughts make you smile, a dry humor that lightens the vastness of time you're contemplating. The little annoyances that mark your shifts become a bridge to those who might come after you. You imagine the possibility of them finding some of your belongings left behind, an old notebook, a favorite pen, or a forgotten lunch container. These mundane traces of your life would speak volumes to someone curious enough to look. The thought of your small presence, lingering in this place long after you're gone, feels quietly reassuring. Time seems to stretch and fold here, minutes blurring into hours, nights into years. Yet, within that flow, you find a steady calm. The slow passage of time creates space for reflection, for dreaming quietly of lives lived and imagined. The archive stands as a monument to preservation, not just of tapes, but of moments, feelings, small pieces of human existence. There is a quiet pride in knowing you are a part of this effort, a guardian of stories that might otherwise be lost in the void. Your night shift routine, the careful cataloging, the gentle handling of tapes, the soft rain sounds accompanying the stories, feels like a meditation, a ritual, connecting you to past and future alike. Outside, the moon remains still and silent, but inside this room, there is warmth, in the memories stored on magnetic tape, in the patient care of your hands, and in the subtle, unspoken connection between generations. As you lean back and close your eyes briefly, you allow yourself to drift gently in this space between times. You are part of a lineage of quiet caretakers, keepers of memory and calm. The future may be uncertain, but in this moment, here and now, you are exactly where you need to be. You settle deeper into your chair, the low hum of the archive machines wrapping around you like a familiar, gentle tide. It's the kind of background noise that's almost easy to forget, but never quite leaves your awareness. The mechanical breathing of the moon's VHS archive creates a steady rhythm, steady enough to lull your thoughts into a soft, wandering state. This is the space where your mind drifts freely, floating into small, harmless daydreams, the kind that shimmer just beyond the edges of waking thought. In one quiet fantasy, the tape deck you tend feels less like a cold, unyielding machine, and more like an old companion with a subtle personality of its own. You imagine the reels spinning not at their usual steady pace, but slowing to a gentle crawl, almost as if they're savoring the stories they carry. The static crackle that normally hisses faintly beneath every playback softens into a soothing melody, quiet, nuanced, and almost secretive, as though the tape is humming a lullaby just for you in the silence of the lunar night. It's a strange thought, maybe a little foolish, but it's comforting to imagine the machines you work with holding their own quiet consciousness, a companion in the solitude. The sterile overhead lights, usually bright and clinical, seem to dim of their own accord in your daydream. Their harsh glare fades away, replaced by a warm amber glow that spills gently over the tape racks and your workstation. Shadows stretch and shift, inviting your eyes to soften and rest. You picture the thermostat settling into the perfect temperature, not too cold to make your fingers stiff, but not so warm that the air feels stifling. The kind of temperature that makes breathing easier, as if the very atmosphere bends itself to soothe you. These imagined changes transform the cold, impersonal lunar base into a small sanctuary, something a little less alien, a little more like a refuge. Your thoughts drift toward the tapes themselves, the countless boxes lined up in neat rows, each one a silent vessel of stories and voices, frozen in magnetic strips and waiting to be heard again. You imagine that when the archive is empty and silent, the tapes quietly whisper among themselves. Their voices are hushed and dry, filled with subtle humor that fits the archive's solemn mood perfectly. One tape grumbles about the endless cycles of rewinding and fast-forwarding, while another jokes about its label peeling just enough to be annoying, but not enough to be replaced. They joke about their own obsolescence with a wry self-awareness, proud survivors in a world quickly moving on to digital streams and holograms. In these reveries, you discover a secret drawer tucked away in your workstation, a place no one else knows about. Inside, you find small treasures collected over years, a smooth pebble brought from Earth, a faded photograph of a sunlit street corner you once passed in a city far away, a keychain shaped like a vintage camera. Each object holds a quiet story, a small bridge, linking you to those who worked here before. They are reminders that you are part of a long chain, archivists and custodians who all moved through these spaces, tending to memories and moments. These tokens feel like silent companions, grounding you in time and place. Sometimes, you imagine the archive itself breathing softly around you. In your daydreams, tapes rewind themselves when no one's watching, files reorganize with perfect order, and chairs slide smoothly back under desks after you leave the room. It's as if the space has a life of its own, an unseen caretaker looking after its own. These small, invisible acts make the loneliness less sharp. The archive becomes an old friend, quietly supporting you through the endless night shift. Your mind wanders to the rain sounds that play softly at the end of every story. In your imagination, the rain sometimes shifts into a soft snowfall or a gentle breeze rustling through invisible leaves. Sometimes, it carries faint whispers of far-off places, footsteps echoing softly on wet pavement, murmured conversations in a dimly lit cafe, or the muffled laughter of people safe and warm in their homes. These subtle changes create a lullaby woven just for you, a quiet comfort that eases the edges of your mind, coaxing you toward calm. Further into your daydreams, you picture a secret garden hidden somewhere within the archive, a tiny oasis of life in the cold lunar base. Hardy plants thrive under artificial lights, their colors muted but undeniably alive. You imagine stepping into this green sanctuary and breathing in the faint scent of earth and leaves, a reminder of life beyond the cold metal walls. The garden feels fragile yet persistent, a small miracle of growth in a place not meant for it. It offers a quiet hope, a gentle pulse of life amid the stillness. You smile at these fantasies. They're a little silly, perhaps impossible, but they offer a welcome reprieve from the monotony and quiet of your work. The real world of the archive is far less magical, more mechanical and isolated, but these harmless imaginings bring a small warmth to your nights, a brief flicker of light that fades only when your attention returns to the task at hand. You imagine closing your eyes briefly, your breath syncing with the flicker of imagined lights, the soft rustle of leaves, the faint chuckle of a tape amused by its own existence. This small ritual offers a private comfort, a quiet ceremony in the stillness that helps you carry on. These fantasies are not ambitions or pressing desires. They carry no urgency or burden. Instead, they are passing thoughts, gentle and light, floating like dust motes caught in a sunbeam, quiet, inconsequential, and oddly freeing. As the hours stretch slowly forward, you let these daydreams ebb and flow, like soft waves brushing the shore of your mind. The room remains unchanged, still and steady, and nothing needs to change. The quiet possibility of harmless imagination holds you safely through the long, lonely night. Eventually, you bring your focus back to the tapes, the stories waiting to be told again, the soft rain playing in your headphones. The night remains calm and steady, full of gentle promise, just as it always has been. The small fantasies, though fleeting, linger quietly with you, soft sparks of warmth against the cool, unyielding surface of your night shift. And in this way, they carry you forward, one quiet moment at a time. Welcome back to Quilloren Radio. Tonight, you find yourself sinking into the stillness of the archive one last time during your night shift on the moon. The machines around you hum quietly, the soft glow of control panels casting gentle pools of light over the rows of tapes and the cool metal surfaces. There is no urgency tonight, no pressing tasks to break the calm, just the quiet unfolding of breath and presence in this sealed, suspended world. The air feels still, almost suspended in time. You notice the faint, steady rhythm of your breathing, a slow inhale and exhale that moves through your body like a gentle tide. The chair beneath you creaks softly as you adjust your position, but the motion is measured and slow, as if in respect for the quiet that envelops the space. The tactile sensation of your fingers resting lightly on the edge of the workstation grounds you. The smooth coolness of the metal contrasts with the warmth of your skin, a simple reminder of the physical world beneath the layers of thought and memory. Every small detail, the faint scratch of fabric, the slight roughness of a worn tape label, settles into your awareness like a soft melody. Your eyes close briefly, allowing the darkness behind your lids to deepen. The silence stretches outward, wrapping around you in a calm embrace. The subtle mechanical hum, the faint tapping of tape reels, the distant sound of electronic processes, all blend into a gentle chorus of stillness. In this moment, there is no past or future, only the quiet present. Your mind slows, thoughts becoming sparse and light. Words soften into whispers. Images blur gently at the edges. The sensation of weightlessness creeps in, not in the physical sense, but as an easing of mental tension. The self, usually so busy with intention and motion, begins to dissolve softly into the space around you. The chair holds you steadily, the air hums quietly, and your breath moves with a calm, measured cadence. The subtle sounds of the archive, the creak of a door hinge, the faint rustle of a tape case, are gentle companions in the stillness, grounding you in the here and now. You notice the temperature of the room, the coolness settling in your fingertips, the dry air brushing softly across your skin. These small sensations anchor you, bringing a quiet focus to the moment. There is no rush, no expectation, only the gentle unfolding of presence. In this space, movement slows to nearly nothing. Your body relaxes fully into the chair, your limbs heavy and still. The rhythm of your breathing is the only pulse, a steady, soft beacon of life in the calm. The light shifts subtly, the soft amber glow of the panels flickering in tandem with your fading awareness. The room feels both vast and intimate, a quiet vessel holding you gently as you drift. The sensations of the archive, the faint vibration of machines, the smooth surface beneath your hands, the gentle touch of air moving past, become the edges of your world. There is no need to resist or hold on. Everything blends into a seamless, quiet whole. Your thoughts are no longer words, but soft impressions, like distant echoes carried on a gentle breeze. They come and go without weight or urgency, leaving only a sense of calm in their wake. The steady, quiet hum of the archive machines blends with the softness of your breath. Time seems to stretch and dissolve, losing its usual shape. There is no beginning or end here, only an endless, gentle now. You feel yourself drifting, slipping into the soft currents of stillness. The boundaries between self and space grow faint, as if you are part of the air, the light, the quiet motion of the archive itself. Each breath carries you deeper into this serene expanse. The sounds, the textures, the sensations all merge into a soothing fabric that envelops you completely. The weight of thought falls away, replaced by a soft, expansive presence. The need to do, to remember, to plan, these fade quietly into the background. You are simply here, breathing, sensing, being. The room, the chair, the light, the air, they hold you gently, without judgment or demand. The silence is full, rich with subtle life. It hums softly beneath the surface of awareness, a delicate thread connecting all things. Your awareness softens further, becoming diffuse and vast. The self relaxes into a quiet openness, a gentle space without edges or boundaries. The slow rhythm of breath is your anchor, steady and sure. Each inhale brings calm. Each exhale releases tension. You rest in this quiet flow, a still point amid the constant motion of time and space. The faint sounds of the archive, the subtle mechanical whir, the distant tap of a tape reel, fade gently into the background, becoming part of the ambient silence. There is no story here, no narrative arc, no conclusion to reach. The moment simply unfolds, softly and without end. You feel yourself dissolving into the gentle hum of the archive, becoming one with the stillness and the quiet. The chair cradles your body as you drift, the light soft and steady, the air calm and cool. Your thoughts slow to nothing. Your breath deepens and lengthens. The silence stretches outward, infinite and comforting. You are held in this moment, still, calm, and unburdened. No words are needed. No movement. Only the soft, steady presence of being. The story stops here, not with a farewell, but with a gentle pause. There is no ending, only the quiet continuation of breath, light, and stillness. The archive hums softly. Your breath moves gently. The night stretches on. You are part of the calm now, fading softly into the quiet space around you. The story dissolves, leaving only the gentle, ambient sound of the room. There is nothing more to say. The moment simply is. And so, you rest.